It is Good Friday. And like that first Good Friday, it is a Good Friday like none other. With the COVID-19 pandemic, with social distancing, we all have walked the way of the cross this Lent. And we all need to recognize our suffering and unite it to the suffering of Jesus. Because in that way, our suffering and our sacrifice becomes meaningful. Otherwise, we're just like a wounded animal, suffering with no reason. But Jesus knew why he suffered. Jesus embraced his destiny. Jesus willingly took up his cross. And for that reason, we have hope. We have hope. Somehow, 2,000 years ago, Judas lost that hope. Judas, who was one of the chosen, one of the 12, decides it's better to betray Jesus because he no longer had hope. And so we come to that scene in the garden where the guards and Judas arrive. And Jesus asks, "Whom are you looking for?" "Jesus the Nazarene," they answer. And Jesus responds, "I am." At that, they all turn away and fall to the ground. Of course, it's a loaded statement, and it loses something in English. In the original Greek, it's ego eimi. In the original Hebrew, it's Yahweh. I am who am. The name that Moses reveals, that God reveals to Moses. And so, here Jesus truly embraces his identity and unflinchingly takes up his cross. We read later in the Gospels that Judas, having given up hope, having betrayed his Lord, eventually takes his own life. But in contrast to Judas, we have Peter. Peter, who is so ready to go. Peter, who we never hear this any other place in the gospel, that he carries a sword. But he pulls out a sword and cuts the high priest's slave's right ear off. Peter, who's ready to die with Jesus, but that same night, he denies him 3 times. Not because he's lost hope, but because he's fearful. He's afraid. He's scared. Yet, unlike Judas, Peter is able to master his fear and to become the rock on which Jesus builds his church. are struggling with fear and hopelessness. And we have two choices. To follow the path of Judas towards destruction, or to follow the path of Peter towards redemption and salvation. We must unite our fear, our hopelessness, our suffering to the cross of Christ. Because that is what will give us the meaning to go on in these difficult days.